Welcome to Bed Crime Stories Podcast. I'm your host, T. Hope you guys are all having a great day. Let me ask you, as I always do, if you find after watching this and listening to it that you enjoyed it or learned something, do me a favor, smash that like button. Now, let's get started. The authorities investigating the alleged Long Island serial killer Rex Heuermann are now looking at similar crimes in Sin City, USA, otherwise known as Las Vegas, Nevada. One of the cold cases that has been reopened as part of this effort is that of 21-year-old Lindsay Marie Harris. Harris was living in Henderson, Nevada, and working as an escort on the Vegas Strip in May of 2005 when she suddenly vanished. Note that the creepy drawing of a blonde woman's bruised face that crime scene investigators removed from the Heuermann home in Massapequa Park, Long Island, bears an uncanny resemblance to Lindsay. Also noteworthy, Heuermann used the name Springfield Man for a Tinder account he opened. Springfield, Illinois plays a role in Lindsay's story, as that's where her severed legs turned up 19 days after she went missing in Nevada. Rex and his wife Asa Ellera purchased a timeshare condo in Las Vegas 2 weeks before Lindsay went missing. Is it for all these reasons that the police are looking at Heuermann as the possible perpetrator of Lindsay's murder? Only they know at this point. And also maybe the murderer. Wanting to add more color to Lindsay's life and story and to allow us to see her as more than just a prostitute who ended up dead, I did some digging. After all, Lindsay lived 21 years on this earth and was only working as an escort for perhaps 2 of those. She never got a chance to redefine herself, to find another way. Somebody stole that from her. This is Lindsay's story as best I could decipher it. After I saw photos of Lindsay and read the obituary her family wrote for her, I felt some of her personality come off the paper. And I saw that she was someone who came from a loving, caring family. Lindsay also had a twin brother, Ryan, who must feel her absence in ways us non-twins will never understand. I think Lindsay illustrates how even children from loving, stable families can veer off the straight and narrow and find themselves living high-risk lives that put them in the path of evil. Lindsay was born along with her twin brother Ryan on September 3rd, 1983, in Smithtown, Long Island, in New York. Yes, Lindsay, like Rex Heuermann, has ties to Long Island. She lived in Patchogue, New York, until the family moved to Skaneateles, New York, in 1986. Her parents, Martha and Robert Harris, were both teachers. In addition to her brother Ryan, she also had another brother named Jared. Lindsay attended Skaneateles Central High School and graduated in 2002. She was a talented artist and was best known for her sense of humor and acts of kindness and generosity toward others. According to her parents, she was a true lover of life and lived it to the fullest. At age 19, Lindsay met her boyfriend, Solomon Barron, at a concert. Barron worked as a self-proclaimed music promoter. In 2003, not long after meeting Solomon, Lindsay moved to Henderson, Nevada to live with him. But Lindsay fibbed to her parents about what she was doing in Vegas, saying she was a nightclub dancer when she was actually working as an escort. At 5 feet 6 inches tall, 120 pounds, with blue eyes and blonde hair, Lindsay personified the all-American, and with her lovely face, it's easy to imagine her attracting many a client. When she returned home for Christmas in 2004, she brought Solomon with her. That's when Martha and Robert first met him. It's hard to know exactly what the Harrises thought about Solomon. Did they have any reservations about him, or did they immediately embrace him? I say this because it raises my eyebrows to hear that Lindsay became an escort after meeting him. Of course, it's entirely possible that he had nothing to do with her life choices. Fast forward to May 4th of 2005, that's when Lindsay donned sweatpants and a blue top, put her blonde locks in a ponytail, and drove to a bank in Henderson, Nevada, to make a deposit. That would be the last time Lindsay Harris was ever seen alive. Her boyfriend Solomon was back in Syracuse, New York at the time. When Solomon tried to reach Lindsay without any luck, he grew concerned. So on May 7th, he reached out to her parents to let them know she was missing. This was the first time he'd ever called them. Upon realizing something was wrong, Solomon flew back to Nevada, and Lindsay was promptly reported missing to the Henderson Police Department. It was only after Lindsay's disappearance that her parents learned of her escort work. Note that Lindsay had been arrested 5 times for prostitution during her time in Nevada. For some reason, Lindsay was driving a rental car, a PT Cruiser, when she vanished. That vehicle was found abandoned at the southern tip of the Las Vegas Valley. When the authorities checked to see if there was activity on her credit cards, they saw there was none. This would seem to indicate that whoever harmed Lindsay did not do it to rob her or steal the vehicle. Lindsay had last communicated with her mother Martha on Mother's Day weekend of 2005. That would have been either Saturday, May 7th or Sunday, May 8th. Lindsay didn't call her mother, rather she sent a Mother's Day card that arrived in the mail. Since Lindsay disappeared around May 4th or May 5th of 2005, and Mother's Day was on May 8th, that would seem to indicate she sent her mother the card right before she went missing. After that card, Lindsay went completely silent and the family had no idea where she was or if she was alive. Note that severed legs were found 19 days after Lindsay went missing in 2005, and they were 1,674 miles away from where she was last seen. Note as well that the legs were not located together. One limb was found by local residents who were riding all-terrain vehicles just after sundown in a wooded area off Interstate 55 near mile marker 80 in Sangamon County, Illinois. The other leg was discovered less than a mile away in the same wooded area. No other remains were found. No head, no torso, no arms. How did Lindsay get from Nevada to Illinois? Was she harmed in Nevada and then disposed of during a cross-country road trip that happened to pass through Springfield, Illinois? Or did someone abduct Lindsay and keep her for a period of time only to take her life in Illinois? Her legs were not fully decomposed when found, which would seem to indicate that they were either freshly severed or that they'd been kept in some sort of cooler for the road trip. Unfortunately, when a person goes missing in Henderson, Nevada, and a pair of dismembered legs appears in a field 1,674 miles away in Illinois 19 days later, the authorities in both places don't necessarily make the connection. The police in Henderson, Nevada likely weren't even aware of the severed legs in Springfield, Illinois. The police in Illinois likely weren't aware that a 21-year-old female escort vanished 19 days earlier from Nevada. The only thing the authorities in Illinois knew in 2005 was that the legs belonged to a female. As for Lindsay's parents in New York, they likely weren't aware that severed legs from a female had been found in Illinois. And even if they had seen that on the news, it's unlikely alarm bells would have sounded, and that's because Lindsay had just disappeared in Nevada. Her parents were still full of hope that she would turn up alive. A few months after Lindsay's disappearance, America's Most Wanted did a segment on the case. Apparently, John Walsh knew the Harris family, and 8 months after Lindsay's disappearance, volunteers on foot along with police on horses and all-terrain vehicles searched the desert for Lindsay. The police said at the time that some evidence was found, but they would not share specifically what that was. In 2006, Lindsay's parents also searched the area in the desert where her rental car was found. I've included a photo of them out in that rough desert terrain. When Lindsay vanished, no one in Nevada realized that a potential clue had been discovered 19 days after she went missing. Those legs found a few hundred yards off Interstate 55, which is about 15 miles south of Springfield, Illinois. It wasn't until 3 years later, in 2008, that anyone was able to make an association between the dismembered remains and Lindsay Harris. Here's how it all went down. Back in 2005, a forensic anthropologist was able to extract a few details about whom the legs belonged to. Namely, that they belonged to a female. The anthropologist also made out a tattoo on Lindsay's thigh resembling the letters SOS. Illinois State Police next did a DNA match for each leg to make sure they belonged to the same person. Once that was confirmed, the information was sent to the FBI. Fast forward to 2008. And that's when the FBI was able to match the DNA sent by Illinois authorities to DNA retrieved from one of Lindsay's toothbrushes the Henderson police had also sent to the FBI. Once the police back in Illinois were notified of the match, they set about contacting Lindsay's family. Ironically, it was on Mother's Day weekend in 2008 that Lindsay's parents in New York received that fateful call. The news was soul-shattering. Police had identified the owner of the severed legs. The legs belonged to Lindsay. A family friend and spokesperson for the Harris family, named Janice Greishaber, said back in 2008 that the news brought Lindsay's family some relief. Greishaber said, quote, "They have some ability to have a service and to feel like they're bringing Lindsay home." After the DNA match was made in 2008, the Illinois State Police began working with the Henderson Police Department. Their goal was to try and find a suspect in the case, but Illinois Lieutenant Scott Compton stopped short of calling Lindsay's case a homicide at that time. I'm sort of surprised to hear that because you'd think it would have been clear that Lindsay's death was a murder. I mean, you have dismembered remains 1,674 miles away from where she lived. To me, that spells obvious foul play. Lieutenant Compton told a reporter in 2008 that despite the 3-year wait, the department felt very fortunate that any match had been made. Sadly, that call about Lindsay's remains being identified came into the Harris home right after they got home from a funeral for Lindsay's uncle. According to a relative, despite their grief over the uncle's funeral, Lindsay's family saw the DNA match news as her uncle giving them a gift. Now at least they knew Lindsay was deceased, but they still didn't know who took her life. As I stated earlier, the police are reinvestigating Lindsay's death now to see if alleged serial killer Rex Heuermann could be the culprit. We know that Heuermann was in Vegas in 2004 and 2005 because he bought those 2 timeshare condos there during those 2 years. In fact, Heuermann purchased the Club du Soleil timeshare on April 23rd of 2005. 2 weeks before Lindsay went missing on May 4th. And again, Heuermann allegedly set up that Tinder account under the email moniker of Springfield Man. Why would Heuermann be using Springfield in an email moniker? That certainly looks suspicious, especially when combined with the disturbing drawing of the bruised young blonde woman and Heuermann's purchases of those condos. Well, that's all I've got on Lindsay Harris, at least for now. Until the next time on Bed Crime Stories, I love you guys. Thank you so much for supporting me. Just know that it is so appreciated.
Your beautiful daughter, and they need to be found, and they need to pay. And you need to know who did it.
Lindsay was one of the nicest people that I've ever met. I mean, from the day we all met her, I think we would come up here for the summers, and we all became friends. And, you know, we always say, nothing provides closure. Closure is not a word that we even use, but getting justice does provide answers. And such a beautiful soul deserves every ounce of justice that hopefully is coming your way.
Thank you.